She was just another passenger, quietly sleeping in seat 8A on a late-night flight out of Dallas. The hum of the engines was steady, and most travelers were dozing off, headphones in, blankets pulled up to their shoulders. It was supposed to be an ordinary flight, nothing more than a routine journey across the night sky. But then the intercom crackled to life. The captain's voice came across calm at first, but underneath there was something sharp, something urgent. Ladies and gentlemen, if there are any combat pilots on board, please make yourselves known immediately. The words cut through the silence like a blade. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Babies stopped crying. The entire cabin seemed to hold its breath. Heads turned, searching. People whispered in confusion. Combat pilots? Did he say combat pilots? Some glanced at the exits, others toward the cockpit. Most passengers expected to see someone tall, broad-shouldered, maybe with a shaved head and a military stance rise up. Maybe a veteran in his 40s or 50s, the kind you'd spot instantly in a crowd. But nothing happened. Row after row sat frozen. The request hung in the air, unanswered, until seat 8A stirred. The woman had been sleeping soundly, her head leaning against the window, unaware of the tension building around her. Slowly, she blinked awake, rubbing her eyes with the back of her hand. She sat there for a moment, confused by the stares locked onto her. Then, with a quiet sigh, she unbuckled her seatbelt. The metallic click of the buckle releasing seemed deafening in the silence. She rose to her feet. Passengers gasped, murmuring. She wasn't what anyone expected. She wasn't dressed in uniform, wasn't towering in stature, just a woman in her early 30s, hair pulled back in a simple braid, wearing jeans and a jacket. But the way she stood, calm, steady, assured, commanded the attention of every soul in that cabin. The flight attendants froze, eyes darting between her and the cockpit. Then, as if drawn by some unseen force, the captain himself stepped out. He stopped dead when he saw her. His face shifted from urgency to shock, then to something else, recognition. For a heartbeat, he simply stared, the passengers watching him with growing confusion. And then he did something that sent chills through the entire cabin. He straightened, his heels clicked together. And right there in the narrow aisle of the plane, the captain of the flight raised his hand to his brow in a crisp, unmistakable salute. The collective gasp from the passengers was instant. Phones were pulled out, screens glowing as people scrambled to record the surreal moment. Mothers pulled their children closer, whispering explanations they didn't fully understand. Veterans on board exchanged stunned looks, their own hands twitching toward a salute they hadn't given in years. Who was she? Why was the captain, an airline captain, a man who commanded respect from hundreds daily, saluting her like a cadet before a general? The woman in 8A gave no reaction at first. She simply met his eyes, her expression unreadable, and then, almost reluctantly, she gave a small nod. The whispers grew louder, a storm of curiosity. Passengers leaned into the aisle, desperate to understand. They were witnessing something extraordinary, something far beyond a normal flight. And yet the only person who seemed unsurprised was the captain. The woman nodded lightly, her presence radiating authority without her saying a word. Passengers whispered frantically, their voices hushed but urgent. Who is she? Why is the captain saluting her? Phones were lifted discreetly, but even those who tried to record hesitated. The moment felt larger than life, almost sacred, like capturing something history itself hadn't meant to reveal so casually. Then the captain spoke, his voice steady but carrying weight. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just a passenger. This is Commander Reynolds, U.S. Air Force Combat Ace, call sign Valkyrie. The words landed like thunder in the cabin. For a second, silence reigned. Then slowly, the meaning began to ripple through the rows. Veterans on board instinctively straightened, some even placing their hands over their hearts in respect. A Marine in row 19 quietly lifted his hand in salute, his eyes glassy with recognition. Parents leaned toward their children, whispering, "Remember this name, Valkyrie. She's a hero." Younger passengers mouthed the word in awe, realizing they were in the presence of someone they had only read about in military journals or seen mentioned in rare news headlines. Commander Reynolds, Valkyrie, had a reputation whispered in bases, briefings, and fighter squadrons. She was the pilot who had flown missions that were never fully declassified, the one who had been credited with impossible saves, who had earned the respect of men and women across every branch. And yet, here she was, standing in the aisle of a commercial jet, wearing nothing but jeans and a jacket, caught in the spotlight she never asked for. A small, almost shy smile crossed her face. She shook her head, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Let's just say I was hoping for a quiet flight," she said softly. Her voice carried humility, but the weight of her presence filled the cabin all the same. The passengers laughed nervously, relieved by her humility, but none could shake the awe that clung to the moment. Children peered over the seats, wide-eyed. The man in 12C whispered, "I can't believe I'm on the same flight as her." Another passenger muttered, "This story is going to be told for years." The captain didn't move from his salute until Commander Reynolds gave him the slightest nod of acknowledgement. Only then did he lower his hand, standing tall beside her, as though sharing in the honor of her presence. For the rest of the flight, the cabin carried a strange electricity. Conversations buzzed in hushed tones. People stared but pretended not to. A few brave passengers asked her for autographs, and though she signed politely, she deflected every question about missions or battles with the same answer: "Some things aren't meant for the record." Still, everyone on board knew this wasn't just a flight, it was a page in history. They would tell their families, their friends, their grandchildren. I was there on that night when the captain asked for a combat pilot, and Valkyrie stood up from seat 8A. And in that instant, under the hum of the engines and the dim cabin lights, ordinary people became witnesses to something extraordinary. A legend hiding in plain sight.